wanted to share about this because I've been thinking about it. I was thinking about it today for some reason. And it was sort of like this, a weird event, but it brings up like a lot of good points, I think. I remember I was living at this ashram in New York for a while, and I was reading Shankaracharya's stuff and translations of some of those sutras or texts or whatever, yeah. And right at the start, there was a short one. It was only like 18 pages, but the things are like really short. And then there's these big ass commentaries. I don't always read the huge commentaries because it's just too much writing. But in one of these commentaries, essentially the commentary said, you don't own any of this shit. It said, you don't own anything. Yeah. And I remember I was sitting on an airplane. I was flying back to Canada from New York. And man, that slapped me. That little sentence in the commentary really hit me super hard. Was you don't own any of this. And there was a pause when that happened in my head for sure. And the whole body kind of like just kind of dropped out in a way. And the whole thing relaxed. But I think why it was coming up in my head this morning or whatever is because it's really like it's a very critical thing to say you don't own any of this. Yeah, because there's all this arising happening at all times. There's the senses, of course, the body, and then the thinking. Yeah, and then emotions and all this other shit that's happening all the time. But just to say very direct, you don't own any of this, hits the nail right on the head as far as doership. Because what I find is when I speak with people or whatever, I find that we're still infatuated in a way with the contents of what's going on, whether it be the senses or the thinking or the emotions, yeah? And the thing is, when it says you don't own any of this, it knocks the doership. It knocks the ownership of what's arising. It's not looking at what's arising, it's looking at the ownership of it. And that's why I think that, well, initially that pause, but it comes back up for me sometimes. You don't own any of this. It's like pops up in the head, And it's a great relief because when it says you don't own any of this, the other side of that is you don't have to fix or change any of this because you don't own it. It's not yours, yeah? The head will pop up and claim it for sure, yeah? But you don't own that movement either. This is the thing, there's all kinds of contents popping up, and who does it arise to? It arises to me. Well, people stop there, and you can't stop there. It gets very uncomfortable, because now there's a bunch of shit popping up, which your head is saying, I don't own this, I don't own this, I don't own this. But it's getting claimed as the fucking owner by you taking the head to be, you taking yourself to be the one who's saying, I don't own this, I don't own this, I don't own this. You know what I mean? You're super bound to what's coming up. Except rather than saying, I own this, you're saying, I don't own this. Yeah. But really, you don't own this. You're not doing what's arising. But when it comes to inquiry or something, we get stuck in the contents. With the word but, usually. Yes, all of that is true, but and then you're fucking into the contents. Yeah. I find it's super important to stick to the ownership, the doership. It's why I love Ramesh Balsekar, because it's like the only thing he talks about is you're not the doer of what's happening. Yeah. And if you're in the world of addiction, you've done a lot of shit that you really wish you didn't do. And well, here's the good news is you didn't do it. You were done to, or you were done through. Yeah, there's something acting on your behalf and you don't own that shit. You see? You're accountable for it now, but your responsibility needs to be questioned. Yes, because if you were like me, even depression was fucking completely taking over, yeah? I don't own that because I wasn't doing that. It's popping up. Because I'm taking myself to be the owner of the contents and the thoughts coming up that's triggering a ton of fucking depression. Sometimes used to be for months and months I'd be down. Fuck. Brutal. And the real bondage to what's arising is the ownership of it. It's the me. It's that mind. That is my emotion. That's my thought. That's my feeling. Yeah, that's my past. Right. So when the thought comes up that I did something wrong, yeah, which isn't even happening, it's a habit pattern of the head. There's a taking myself to be that. Well, you don't own that. You see? And then the head goes, I don't own that. Well, you don't own that either. That's another movement of what we call self in AA or whatever you want to say. Yeah? You're not the owner of what's arising. It's vitally important because otherwise we're getting more bound to what's arising through the my. Yeah. It's the my which is the illusion. And then it can be seen that this whole operation is dreaming, yeah? But if the head is walking around going, this is dreaming, and you're taking yourself to be the head, then none of this is dreaming. You're lying. Yes, you're still stuck in bondage. So that's this commentary, you don't own any of this, is really, really smacked me hard, man. You don't own what's arising. You're not the doer of what's arising. Yeah. And if you're looking at inquiry or Ramana and shit, I mean, they say this constantly. Nisargadatta, in his book Prior to Consciousness, is pretty much just saying, I don't know why you're asking me questions. To go back to the I am and sit there and see what happens. See if this thing exists. Who's the owner? Who's the doer? Why is this all unraveling in this way? Yeah. Because otherwise you're getting pinned really hard with what's arising. Yeah. Really, when it comes to non-duality, there's not much else to talk about, I feel. We talk about everything that you are not, because you can't talk about ultimateness. There's no words. It's just open. So you don't own any of this. It was something like that. It was pretty close, yeah. So the whole thing starts with you. The inquiry essentially starts at the start of the sentence. You. You don't own any of this. This, let's say, is phenomena arising constantly. So it would be really important to figure out who the you is. Yeah, because we pretty much know the thisness. Yeah, the room, the head, the thoughts, the emotions, everything that's getting claimed to be mine. You don't own this. Well, if there's a claiming by the head to be the one, yeah, then that must not be you, because you don't own this, and the head is claiming that it owns everything that's popping up. That's a big hint right there. You don't own this. So if it feels like there's a lot of ownership and everything that's happened, it feels like you're doing it, then maybe it's the wrong you that you're living as. There's a misidentification there. You see? So that ownership is like a misownership. Yeah? There's a bunch of stuff being claimed to be yours that you're not doing, because you, what you are, doesn't own any of this. Yeah? So go right to the you. Forget the this and go right to the you and see what you're identified as that feels like it owns all of this. You're not that. That's a direct, yeah. You're not that which you're taking yourself to be, which is taking itself to be the owner of everything that's going on. You are not that. And from your true standpoint, yeah, which is everywhere, let's say, awareness or whatever you want to call it, the ultimate, I don't know. Yeah, you don't own any of this. And then the bondage to all the this that's going on can be put down. Yes? And then the thisness can happen on and on and on. And it will continue, including the head claiming what's arising as being your arising. Yeah. But the thing is we get caught in the head getting caught in because we're still taking ourselves to be the owner. We leave that inquiry into the I and we go, this emotion though is really strong. It must be mine. I must own this one. Yeah. There's a lot of thoughts in my experience from depression, there's a lot of thoughts which seem super true. Yes. But there's still an interpretation, yeah. I'm not going to change that interpretation inherently, but I don't own the thought. So it's much much easier because the changing the interpretation hasn't worked, yeah. Rehabbing the mental system, it doesn't seem to be that effective for me, at least. So I'm just going to lose faith in that shit by looking at who owns it. Now, if I try to lose faith in it as the owner of it, then I'm fucked. I can't get out of that. Yeah? Because I'm taking myself to be the owner of it. You see? If you're taking yourself to be the owner of it or to be something, if a thought arises and you feel like you own it and you're doing it, that thought is you. It's having you, essentially. You're not gonna deteriorate that thought because you're taking yourself to be the one who did it. Yes. But you don't own that. So the you that's taking yourself to be that thought pattern ain't you. It's something else. It's a claiming to be you. Yes. And it would be very beneficial to investigate that you. Because that you that you're not is playing God with all of these thoughts and all of these patterns that are coming up all the time. And it's misleading. Yes. So you don't own any of this. Go right to the you. It's not much different than who am I? It's not much different than what's the sound of one hand clapping or who is the host of seeing and hearing. The you you're taking yourself to be is claiming ownership of what is arising in your life, and that you is not you. What is arising in your life is a happening. Yes. So trying to alter that, trying to alter what you're taking yourself to be, let's say the mental system, in my experience is not going to work. Yes. It's much easier to see that you're not the you that is arising to. You are something much bigger. Yes? And within that you, which is much bigger, let's say within that awareness, there's no inherent individual doer of what's happening. And therefore, you do not own what's arising. You don't own any of this. Thoughts, emotions, ideas. So we can begin to lose faith in those thoughts and emotions, ideas, because they're obviously interpretations which are happening and being placed or painted on the present moment of what's going on. Yes, and it's misleading us. How is it misleading us? By us being the owner of it. The thought comes up, and then there's a claiming of that thought. Yes, there's another movement that happens in time that goes, ooh, that's my thought. It happens after the movement of the thought itself. That's my thought, and now you're bound to the thought. Yes, but the one that comes up and claims ain't you. It's certainly trying to live as you, and it probably is living as you, but you don't own any of this. Yes? So maybe it's not you. It's a false representation of you. This is why they call it illusory or a mirage. Because it seems like you, and without any investigation, it's living as you for sure. So everything that arises, emotions, thoughts, ideas, whatever comes up, the situations in your life, are very much, if you're not looking at the mirage, then it's taken to be yours, and you're owning all of it. Yeah? And that gets very sticky for many of us. You know? very, very sticky for addicts and alcoholics, to the point where we're driven to try to get out of it by any means through self-seeking. Yeah. Because we're taking it to be ours. Mm. And there's a feeling, a great feeling of being stuck. And then there's a lot of stuff out there which says, okay, well, you're going to change that you. And I don't think you are going to change that you, because it's a program in the head. It's mental habit patterns coming up constantly. That claiming is what your head does. You're not going to change it and make it not claim what's arising. It's not going to happen. It's what it does. That's the operation. But it's not you, because you don't own any of this. And the head is claiming ownership of all of this. Yeah? I just wanted to talk about it because it's like right on the fucking nose. You don't own any of this. Yeah, so direct. And then when is freedom available? Right now. Because it's not like you start not owning what's arising. It's always been this way. This is the thing. It's not like you realize something in Advaita, yeah. You are realization now. It's just there's a misunderstanding going on where we're taking ourselves to be something that we're not. The owner, the doer of what's arising. There's a space that all this arises in, and all of that's arising is not touching that space. And then there's before that space, you know? There's something knowing the space even. But the head is addicted to what's going on in phenomena, what's arising. The head is addicted to it, and it's claiming the ownership of it, and that ain't you. Because you don't own any of this.